The Shop 3 Sheep Eater. Written and read by W.P. Thrift, who can be contacted at Lantis Armstrong on Twitter. And cover art created by J.D., contactable at Radix_L on Twitter. Chapter 5 The Wandering Marches. Ray had been standing in the doorway to her indoor pool for long enough that the wallpaper in the hallway had started to warp. She sighed, slid the glass door closed, and walked on to her kitchen, where she sat down at the round wooden table and stared at the clock on the wall. Another 4 hours until she heads to bed. No, wait, 5 hours. She had miscounted the first time. She hated clocks that used hands. Why not just give the numbers? She should go buy one and replace that thing. But she had kept her condominium largely unchanged from how her parents left it. Another 5 hours. 5 hours, 2 minutes, and 36 seconds to be precise. 35 seconds. 34. No, wait, 44. She had misread again. Melatonin did nothing for her, or she had choked some down right now and try to pass out early. She didn't work today, and wasn't scheduled to come in to the auto repair shop tomorrow either. But she was likely going to stop by and try to clock in anyway, volunteering her services if the boss wouldn't let her. She had it marked on her calendar already. Bonus day at work tomorrow. Today's date had "Swim, you need the exercise" written on it. She held her forehead in one hand while reaching over to grab a box of Honey and Oats granola bars. She unwrapped one and stared at it, her hand slowly drifting down until it was resting on the table. She exhaled slowly, just staring at the contours in the granola bar, the tiny hills and valleys all coated in sugary honey. The kitchen was large and empty. There was so much space around the table because it could fold out and seat a dozen people. When she was very young, her parents would invite so many relatives over for the holidays, so the table was given ample space so they wouldn't have to arrange anything else in the room before folding it out. Today, this arrangement gave the folded-in, smaller version of the table the appearance of an island out in the middle of a vast ocean, especially with the blue floor tile. Ray used to think it was funny that her house was one of the biggest houses in Cattailville, yet it was always so empty, nobody ever coming over after her parents had taken off long ago. But times change, and she didn't find it to be that funny anymore. The doorbell rang, and a gasp escaped her throat. She shoved the untouched, open granola bar back into the box and ran to the door, swinging it open as it had been left unlocked. "Miranda! Hey!" Ray said, a bit too forcefully. "Oh, how are you today?" Miranda replied, way more forcefully, never to be outdone in the energeticness of greeting someone. She carried a basket under one arm, and was still in her work clothes. "You should come in," Ray hastily invited, waving her inside until she accepted. She realized she was acting strange, but couldn't care less right now. "What brings you over here? Just catching up?" "Have you been swimming?" Miranda asked. Ray realized that she was in her swimsuit still, which was far more candid attire than she would ever wear outside. That was the problem with being alone so often. It was a disembodying experience where one can easily forget themselves. Beyond the sleeves of tattoos down her arms, depicting roses and thorny vines, her lesser-known tattoos on her right side of a skull eating a snake was also clearly displayed. All the fiery red roses on her arms, as well as all the fire surrounding the skull, clashed with her short, blue-dyed hair. She wasn't worried about uniformity of appearance. She just liked the colors. "Oh, I was just about to. Give me a minute," Ray said. She rushed to the living room, where at least a half-dozen wardrobes worth of clothes lied over the back of the couch. The TV remote control on the table next to the couch was thick with dust. This was no longer an entertainment center, but rather a dressing room. She threw on a black muscle shirt and a pair of skinny jeans. This was her idea of decent public attire. "So, I came to say, your parents are back in town," Miranda said. Ray looked up, shock etched in her face, and then her expression dropped, as did her body language. She dropped all of her weight onto one hip, while her arms hung there limply. "Right. So they're back in town, and they're not here," Ray said. "Fuck 'em. Was that all you came here for?" Her tone had grown hostile, and Miranda felt her welcome being quickly worn out. "I mean, I just heard about it, so after work I headed straight here," Miranda wanted to explain, then reconsidered what she had said. "Well, actually I meant to, but then I saw Bowman's car at the rundown block of stores. Did you know he owns them now? I was so happy for him, and then I kissed him. I kissed him on the cheek, of course. I'm not brave enough for anything more than that. Do you think that was okay? Was I coming on too strong? Or maybe I wasn't coming on strong enough. Oh no, do you think he thinks of me as a sister? And that the kiss meant nothing to him at all?" Ray's expression had morphed into concern during her friend's increasingly panicked narrative. "Miranda, calm down." "I won't let you throw your love life away the way that I have, Ray! I'm here to save you!" "Oh, wait, what?" That came completely out of the blue for her. "Here, I brought you some apple fritters." Miranda held up the basket she had brought inside. "Oh, thank you?" Ray accepted the basket. Her stomach growled, upset with her for neglecting it. She still didn't feel like she could eat, however. "So, they're at Cassidy's place, the McCoy farm just outside of town," Miranda said. "Looks like they're going to be staying there for a while. Then I'll start counting down the days until they visit, or until they leave again without even stopping by." Ray twirled her finger in the air in mock excitement. "Oh, come on, you've got to see them. My family lives 5 states over, and I make a point to drive out there every single Christmas, and Thanksgiving, and New Year's, 4th of July. "Stop. Listen, that's different," Ray said, but added internally, "and it's also crazy." Then she continued aloud. "At least your family always lives in the same place. I thought my parents were dead for 2 years before they resurfaced. Resurfaced on the terrorist watch list. Do you know what that's like? Come on, Ray. My sister has a higher rating on the terrorist watch list than your parents do," Miranda pointed out. Ray actually had not known that, but she dismissed it as little more than a distraction from the point. "Look, I hate Cassidy McCoy, that stuck-up bitch. And if my parents don't want to see me again, then I should respect their wishes," Ray snapped. "Wait, you don't get along with Cassidy? I didn't even know you knew her." Miranda was surprised. That's a long story, mostly involving some high school bullshit. We never hung out, but her crowd always hated mine. There was a lot of things said and done between us but that's..." Ray stopped, not wanting to talk about this anymore. She hadn't even thought about Cassidy in years. "So, it's a no-go on getting you two to see eye to eye? Even though neither of you ever even hang out with your old so-called friends anymore?" Miranda pressed. Ray gave her an icy stare. "Okay, I gotcha. People that neither of you care about enough to have phoned in the last 5 years should totally dictate how you behave today. Are you trying to piss me off?" Ray had a hard time telling if Miranda was thinking out loud aloofly or deliberately mocking her. I would never," Miranda insisted. Okay, I'll go. You were about to go for a swim anyway, and I have 5 more people to visit on my way home. Oh, wait, I nearly forgot. I heard that Lantis was there, too." Ray flinched at that name. "Why would I care about him?" "Whatever your parents' reason is for staying down here for so long involves him. No idea why," Miranda said. "But they're all living at Cassidy's for the time being." "Why would they train him?" Ray contemplated aloud. "A train?" "Yeah," Ray replied. That's the only time they ever show any interest in anyone besides themselves. Or their targets. When they're trying to create a successor to their legacy. They actually tried that with me a while back. I can still run like a horse to this day because of it. But clearly I failed them, because they stopped even bothering with me one day. Then they left town right after, never to return, until now. I wonder if that has anything to do with the robots or Beverly, our old lunch lady, attacking him at his old apartment, Miranda considered. It seems like he's someone that's way more involved in stuff than we realize. Oh yeah, all that. It just kind of felt more like a case of mistaken identity to me. I mean, he was completely hopeless. He had nothing to do with them, Ray said. My parents are... Oh God, they're gonna kill him. Wait, what? Ray itched at her arm, biting her lip. Yeah, they go so overboard with training. Ah, God, they'll destroy that idiot. I just know they will. Oh, fuck me. I gotta go to Cassidy's stupid farm. God damn it! So, wait, you're gonna go see your parents after all? Miranda was excited again suddenly. It's not like that. You do like him then. That's why you're gonna go rescue him. You don't have to like someone to want to save their lives. I didn't hear a no there. But that's a nice pivot, Miranda said smugly. Ray tried her best to give her an annoyed look, but she just couldn't muster it. She motioned for Miranda to follow her before running upstairs to her bedroom, where she quickly began to pack. She had tomorrow off from work anyway, plus she could easily call in a few days. She never took any time off, so an extended vacation was likely well within her power to abruptly take. I wouldn't be able to convince them that he's not who they think he is. Whatever they think he is, Ray said. They're way too stubborn. They don't live in the same reality as us. You know what I mean? But I can try to watch them, make sure they don't outright kill him. That's as noble of cause to go and see your parents as any, Miranda said. I'm not doing this for them, Ray shouted. Right, you're doing it for true love. Oh my God, you're like a broken record. Ray threw a wad of shirts at Miranda that she was about to stuff into a luggage bag. Now grab those bags and help me get them down to my car. And, Miranda? Yeah? Thanks for coming by to let me know, Ray muttered, near inaudibly. She packed in a hurry, then waved bye to Miranda as she drove off. Ray got into her car, went to crank up, then paused, with her hand on the keys in the ignition. Her hand gradually slipped away and dropped down to her lap. She sat in the driver's seat for a long time, expressionless. Sweat began to bead on her forehead, the summer heat turning the garage into an oven. She closed her eyes and let the sweat roll down over her lids. When she opened her eyes again, she pulled the keys back out of the ignition, got out of the car, and went back inside. Here you go. Best dig in while it's piping hot, Cassidy said, handing out bowls of vegetable soup to everyone sitting around the kitchen table. She had made a massive pot of it, full of slices of potatoes, green beans, garden peas, lima beans, carrots, and corn. She also had a bowl of chopped onions off to the side to add to her own bowl after dipping it, as nobody else here liked onions. Mr. and Mrs. March dug in, while Lantis sat comatose at the table, trembling as though he were freezing cold. He wasn't cold, though. His skin was actually hot to the touch. He was just in a tremendous amount of pain, so much that he couldn't stop shaking. "Now, where did Haley get off to?" Mrs. March asked. "Oh, I haven't seen her since she was a wee little thing." "Oh, that scamp." Cassidy shrugged. "The older she gets, the harder she gets to keep track of. She's out playing somewhere. She'll likely come in when she gets hungry enough. Don't worry, though. Monsters don't tend to travel this far outside of Cattailville. It's pretty safe around these parts." Cassidy sat down to eat after serving everyone else. But just as the first spoonful of soup approached her mouth, she froze. She stared at Lantis, just feeling awful for the sorry shape he was in. "Oh, I have an idea. Cassidy said, getting up and fetching a long straw out of the kitchen cabinet. "My granny used to eat like this near the end. Don't worry none, Lantis. This here's a clean straw." She treated him like the poor, incontinent soul that he was, and stuck the straw in his soup and the other end in his mouth. He wouldn't be able to eat any of the vegetables, but at least he could drink the broth. That would be better than nothing. For a while, he didn't react to this. "Oh, now come on," Cassidy coaxed. "You gotta get something in your belly." She showed a great deal of patience with him, flashing back to how she had nursed her grandmother after her parents were taken from her and she was left all alone to struggle with her then very young sister and very old granny. It was the hardest time of her life, but she had gotten through it. Slowly, the soup began to go up the straw. Cassidy didn't leave his side until it successfully reached his mouth, at which point she felt like she could relax and go enjoy her own meal.
"Oh, you see that?"
Mr. March observed this.
"Now that's clever. Lantis is moving as little as possible during his downtime, so that he'll be able to unleash 100% of his pure, raw, unstoppable powers should a disaster occur."
Mrs. March nodded.
"I am truly humbled by this young man. We came here to teach him everything we know. But it may just be him that teaches us a new thing or two, huh? Oh, just when you think there's nothing left to learn!"
Mr. March cackled jubilantly. Cassidy tried to hide the mean look she wanted to shoot them both. By this point, she had given up arguing with either of them. If they could look at someone who was clearly knocking on death's door and come away with that take on it, then they were both totally off their rockers. She didn't know if she could stand by and watch this continue for much longer. Earlier today, she had found Mr. March had dragged Lantis back outside of the house, dropped him face down in the mud, and started yelling at him to do push-ups with a giant rock he had placed on the poor guy's back. Apparently, Lantis had become conscious just long enough to do one entire push-up. Then a horrible cracking sound echoed from his back. He had screamed and dropped down into the mud and began to drown. Cassidy barely rolled the rock off of him in time to save him, and had been guarding him like a hawk ever since, until he was at least aware enough of his own surroundings to respond verbally again. There were lots of vendors in town which were expecting her to be bringing them supplies tomorrow, but she was just going to have to miss out on a delivery for the first time in her life. Hopefully those businesses will understand. She just couldn't trust these two old kooks, whom she had once dearly respected, with the unsupervised freedom to torture this guy. It was the middle of the following day. Cassidy, Lantis, and Mrs. March all sat on the couch while Mr. March could be heard outside, smashing trees in half. None of them were Cassidy's peach trees, of course. He had had an entire log truck worth of lumber brought in, and he was currently preparing something. An obstacle course, perhaps? There was no telling, and Cassidy didn't want to know. Bright and early that morning, she had stood in front of the door to Lantis's room, and refused to let Mr. March enter to wake him. She had told him that he needed what crazy exercise nuts call a 0 day, a day where no working out occurs at all. They were used to recover during a particularly strenuous workout regimen. Mr. March called that a bunch of poppycock, until Cassidy changed her story and began to insist that it was Lantis's idea. At which point, Mr. March decided that it probably was a great idea. It was a chance for him to rethink the training regimen and to make something challenging enough for someone like Lantis. Thus, all the trees which were now outside being split apart by hand. "Cassidy," Lantis said, making her nearly jump out of her seat from surprise. It was the first thing she had heard him say since she had first found him near dead outside yesterday. Yeah," she replied. "Thank you." She just nodded in response. He likely didn't even see it, as he had been wedged on the couch so as not to fall over and to be facing the TV. All of his muscles were swollen to the point that he could not currently move. By the following day, 0 day number 2, Lantis had become mobile again, though every step he took was accompanied by an involuntary squeak of pain from his throat. If he needed to get through a door, he would just have to wait by the door patiently for someone to come by and open it for him, as he didn't have the strength to turn a doorknob. As the rest of the swelling went down, Cassidy noticed his ankles remained particularly swollen still. They weren't just overexercised like the rest of him, they were injured. This might explain his whimpers from walking slowly around the house. "Now, Lantis, I know you don't like shoes, but—" Cassidy began, then held up a pair of specialty boots that went along with his tracksuit. "But these are designed for strong ankle support. You're gonna tear something if you keep this up." "No, but thank you," Lantis replied weakly. "Now that wasn't a question, and you don't have any options here. You're gonna get over your weird anti-footwear thing right now, and you're gonna put these on," Cassidy shouted, shoving the boots against his chest. He reached up an arm to hold them, but when she let go, his arm gave out, unable to hold up the less than 3-pound boots, and they dropped to the floor. He gave her an apologetic look to try and express that this wasn't an act of defiance. While he was very, very slowly beginning to kneel down to try and pick them back up, his knees made the most awful popping noises while they bent. Cassidy did what she told herself not to do, and asked, "Lantis, tell me, do you even want to be doing this? I could help you escape. Just tell me now, while the marches aren't around." Lantis's reply was muttered, near incomprehensible. It was a strange babble about something that sounded like salty chicken nuggets. It made no sense to Cassidy, and she worried if he was entirely well, or if a fever had gotten to his brain and scrambled it. She checked his temperature while he slowly fumbled with the socks rolled up in the boots, wondering what they were even for. He didn't react to her placing the back of her hand on his forehead. He felt normal enough to her, not running a fever. That did nothing to alleviate her worry, however. Socks and boots felt very weird on his feet. He didn't like it one little bit, but every time he went to try and slip them off, Cassidy would give him a stern look. So he'd stop. Not like he actually had the energy to fully remove them. After she had shoved them on his feet, they were as good as stuck for at least the next week, until he gets enough energy back to have control over how he was dressed again. Cassidy wasn't sure if it was right to be helping out the marches like this, but she just reckoned if she could help Lantis cope with their training, even a little bit, that he might just be able to eventually stomach an entire workout without being dead to the world for a week afterwards. It was a strange, terrible situation she found herself in, but this was the best compromise that she could come up with. That concludes Chapter 5 of Sheep Eater. Tune in every Tuesday for new chapters, and please subscribe to be notified the moment they're released. If you would like to reach me, you can do so at Lantis Armstrong on Twitter. That's LANTISARMSTRONG. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us again for next week's chapter, A Shadow over the SS Sheep Eater.